Something in you settles tonight. It isn't fireworks, it isn't loud. It's that quiet but undeniable shift where you finally stop bending, stop diluting, stop hesitating, and everything inside you locks into place. The universe doesn't announce it with trumpets. It announces it through your own breath, through the way your shoulders sit lower, because the weight you've carried no longer belongs to you. You're not imagining this. You can feel it like a current running under your skin, as if some inner switch has been flipped from almost to enough. Here's the turn. For years, you've carried versions of yourself that were half-built. You showed up as fragments to make others comfortable, as pieces of yourself to avoid confrontation. You watered down your brilliance because you thought harmony mattered more than accuracy. But that agreement expired, and tonight you can sense it. It's not about creating a brand new you. It's about recognizing the self that was waiting under all the edits, waiting for the permission you kept postponing. Notice what changes first. Your posture, not a dramatic stance, but subtle. Your eyes hold steady where they once darted. Your chin doesn't tilt in apology. Your silence is no longer a cover but a claim. These are not small adjustments. They're evidence that your nervous system has finally caught up to the truth your soul already knew. You don't have to negotiate your own presence anymore. Strip this down further. Identity isn't what people call you, and it isn't the story you repeat in your head. Identity is coherence, your inner state finally matching your outer actions. When you stop forcing a smile in places that drain you, when you stop saying yes to things that shrink you, when you choose alignment over approval, that's the lock-in. And it feels different than striving. Striving leaks energy. Lock-in generates it. The field response, people notice before you even explain. Someone who once mocked you suddenly lowers their voice around you. A room that used to talk over you grows oddly quiet when you enter. That's not intimidation, that's resonance. Their bodies recognize your switch before their minds can name it. They sense that you're not auditioning anymore, you're cast in your own role, and it can't be taken away. Zoom out, then decide. Think of an ember that has been kicked, buried, smothered in dirt. For a long time, it looked extinguished. But tonight, the oxygen finds it, and the ember steadies into flame. No wind can snuff it, because the fuel has always been within. That's you now. The tests that almost broke you were not failures. They were the bellows, blowing air until you caught fire. Proof, on contact. Tomorrow morning, you'll notice it in how you move through routine. The text you don't answer. The task you approach without dread. The sudden clarity that certain voices sound hollow. These are micro signs that your inner switch has locked, and once it locks, no amount of external doubt can undo it. It isn't arrogance, it isn't performance, it's inevitability embodied. From pattern to practice, you don't need to tell anyone. In fact, the quieter you keep it, the louder it will resonate. Let them sense it. Let them fumble to adjust. You are no longer explaining your worth, you are wearing it. You are no longer asking for permission, you are carrying authority in your silence. Lock it in. This is the night you become undeniable. The you that was once tentative is gone. The version that second-guessed, that apologized for existing, that bent itself into shapes for survival retired. What remains is whole, stable, and lit from within. And whether or not they ever acknowledge it, every room you step into will feel the switch. For so long, you've been treated like a mirror. People came close not to see you, but to see themselves reflected in a way that kept their illusions intact. They wanted your surface smooth, your response agreeable, your reflection flattering. You were the polished glass that bent light to hide their flaws. But tonight, that mirror shatters. You don't just reflect anymore, you ignite. Here's the turn. You become the fire. Not fire for destruction, but fire for exposure. Fire that makes shadows visible. Fire that melts away the costumes and reveals what's underneath. Those who once depended on your reflective compliance now find themselves standing in a heat they can't control. They will squirm, stumble, and sweat, not because you've spoken a word of accusation, but because your very presence burns away the mask. Notice what changes first. Performances stop working. That friend who always joked through discomfort suddenly finds their humor falls flat in your presence. That coworker who built their power on charm starts fumbling when you walk into the room. The people who once felt confident putting on a show feel the makeup drip, the script falter, the lines dry in their throat. Why? Because your authenticity is too heavy for their performance to stand beneath. Strip this down further. Most people don't wear masks to deceive others. They wear them to survive their own self-avoidance. Masks are comfort blankets. Costumes are shields. Performances are distractions from the terror of being seen. But when you've been chosen, your energy carries something sharper. It pierces through without effort. It's like light finding cracks in a wall. No matter how thick the plaster, it finds its way in. The field response, avoidance, labels, projection. They'll call you arrogant, cold, unapproachable, but those are mistranslations. What they're really saying is, I can't lie to myself when you're near. They will resent you for it, but deep down, they'll respect it. Fire is feared, but fire is also worshipped. People don't clap for mirrors. They gather around flames. Zoom out, then decide. Think of a stage performer under lights that grow hotter, brighter, unrelenting. The costume begins to itch, the makeup begins to run, and suddenly the role is impossible to maintain. That's what your presence does now. You don't force people's masks to fall, they simply cannot withstand the burn. Proof on contact. Silence will become your sharpest weapon. You won't need to argue, defend, or prove your point. Just by being, you'll make pretenders restless. Your stillness will expose their noise. Your clarity will reveal their confusion. And whether they admit it or not, they'll walk away changed. From pattern to practice, let go of the urge to explain why they react the way they do. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your task is not to soften the fire, but to steward it wisely. Fire cooks, fire warms, fire refines. But it also scorches illusions beyond repair. That's the balance you now carry. Lock it in. Tonight, you stop being the safe reflection. You become the flame that no one can ignore. They may mislabel you, resist you, even slander you, but none of it will matter. Their illusions will still collapse under your presence. And when the smoke clears, you'll see clearly who was built for truth and who was built for pretending. The mirror season is over. The fire season has begun. For years, you carried your wounds like they were accidents. Betrayals felt random, loneliness felt unlucky, and opposition seemed like bad timing. But tonight, the fog clears, and you finally see the field for what it island. You were never cursed. You were targeted. You were never stumbling through random storms. You were walking through calculated resistance. Here's the turn. Life wasn't punishing you. It was training you. Every strange abandonment, every sharp betrayal, every season where nothing made sense, those weren't coincidences. They were coordinated strikes designed to slow you down before you even knew you were carrying fire. And tonight, the binoculars are placed in your hands. You see the enemy lines, you see the traps, you see the board for what it always was, a battlefield. Notice what changes first. the questions stop. Instead of asking, "Why me? Why always?" you begin to recognize patterns. The friend who shifted overnight, the doors that slammed shut, the constant interruptions, suddenly they line up like chess pieces. You weren't weak, you weren't broken, you were dangerous, and they were threatened long before you realized your strength. Strip this down further. Picture a soldier ducking bullets, believing them to be stray shots. He blames himself for stumbling, for being clumsy, for not moving fast enough. Then one night, he sees the sniper scope glinting in the distance. In that instant, everything shifts. He understands he isn't unlucky, he's hunted. That's you. The moment clarity hits, you can no longer pretend the war isn't real. The field response. Those who once seemed like friends may reveal themselves as pawns, unaware of the role they played. They weren't all malicious. Many didn't even know they were being used. But their actions still carved scars. Their silence still wounded. Their distractions still drained you. Recognizing this doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise, because now you can tell the difference between those who chose harm and those who were weaponized without knowing. Zoom out, then decide. Think of a chessboard. Most people move in predictable lines, pawns content with small steps. But you, your energy moves like the queen, limitless, unpredictable, and therefore dangerous to the structure itself. That's why every effort was made to corner you, distract you, and sacrifice pieces just to keep you from advancing. You weren't clumsy, you were critical. Proof on contact. Look back at the years that felt most chaotic. Was it really chaos? Or was it coordinated pressure meant to make you doubt yourself? Tonight, you'll see the hidden order. Every smear campaign, every rejection, every gaslight wasn't random. It was psychological warfare meant to bury your clarity under confusion. And yet, here you are, not just standing, but sharper than ever. From pattern to practice, use your clarity as armor. When you know you're on a battlefield, you stop being shocked by resistance. You expect it. You read the signs. You stop wasting energy questioning whether people's sudden changes are your fault. Instead, you recognize tactics. You anticipate moves. You reclaim power by refusing to be blindsided again. Lock it in. You are no longer the hunted. You are no longer stumbling in the dark, mistaking sabotage for bad luck. Tonight you step into the role of strategist, carrying intel the opposition hoped you'd never see. And with clarity comes a shift so sharp they can no longer approach you the same. The battlefield hasn't changed, but you have. And now, chosen one, you move with eyes wide open. You've noticed it already, haven't you? Spaces feel different when you walk in. It isn't ego, it isn't paranoia, it's resonance. You've shifted into a frequency that clean systems welcome but dirty systems can't survive. Tonight, that truth stabilizes, and you'll no longer question it. Here's the turn. You don't have to say a word for a room to rearrange itself. Conversations falter, jokes don't land. Eyes avoid yours. Why? Because your energy has become the open window in a smoke-filled hall. People accustomed to haze choke when you bring clarity. It's not that you attack them, it's that you make pretending impossible. Notice what changes first. Manipulators lose rhythm. That person who once bent the atmosphere with charm suddenly struggles to keep their flow around you. Their tone cracks, their lines fall flat, their grip slips. They sense it too, their power was never real. It was borrowed from the crowd's fear. And fear collapses in the presence of authenticity. Strip this down further. Illusions thrive on agreement. If a lie goes unchallenged, it gains momentum. But the second someone arrives carrying coherence, the scaffolding weakens. You're not tearing down walls with your hands, you're standing still while their false foundations shake. It feels disruptive, but disruption is the natural consequence of truth showing up uninvited. The field response. Technology glitches, tension spikes, silence grows heavy. It isn't mystical paranoia, it's nervous systems adjusting to the field you carry. Some will feel drained near you because their facades require constant energy to maintain. Others will feel electrified, grateful for the relief of breathing clean air again. Both reactions prove the same thing. Your frequency is undeniable. Zoom out, then decide. Imagine a corrupt building held up by cheap scaffolding. From a distance, it looks sturdy. But when an earthquake rolls through, the floors reveal themselves. That's your presence now. You're not the wrecking ball, you're the tremor that exposes what cannot stand. And once the cracks appear, they can't be plastered over. Proof on contact. When people twist your clarity into cruelty or accuse you of arrogance, recognize the pattern. It's projection, not truth. They're uncomfortable because your clean frequency refuses to support their performance, and instead of admitting that, they name you the problem. But deep down, they know what's happening. They feel their scaffolding split. From pattern to practice, protect your energy by choosing where you linger. Some rooms you'll have to leave, not because you're weak, but because your presence accelerates collapse, and you can't be responsible for holding their walls together. That isn't abandonment, it's discernment. Your role is to embody coherence, not rescue crumbling systems. Lock it in. You are no longer someone who fits into smoke-filled environments. You are the open window. You are the breath of clean air. And while some may avoid you, resist you, or misname you, they cannot undo the truth your presence carries. Tonight, you stop doubting it. You are the signal. And every room you enter is rewritten by the frequency you've become. You've felt it before, old memories surfacing at strange hours, people from years ago suddenly thinking about you, even ghosts from your bloodline whispering through dreams. That isn't nostalgia. It isn't coincidence. It's the evidence that your presence has started bending time itself. Tonight, that power stabilizes. You stop being a passive traveler and step into your role as the reset point. Here's the turn. Cycles that ran for generations collapse in you. The silence they called respect, the manipulation they dressed as discipline, the shame they baptized as love. None of it survives your awareness. You are not bound to repeat what was rehearsed before you. You are the interruption, the break in the pattern, the one piece of the domino chain that refuses to fall. Notice what changes first. Old wounds rise for closure, not to torment you. Pain you thought buried knocks at your door because it knows you're strong enough now to dissolve it. Ancestors feel it. Descendants not yet born feel it. Your healing doesn't just shift your life, it echoes backward and forward, altering stories that were once carved in stone. Strip this down further. Imagine a family line repeating betrayal, abuse, or silence for centuries. Each generation shrugs, saying, "That's just how it island." Then you arrive, and instead of mimicking the pattern, you refuse. Your refusal is not weakness. It's power. Because cycles don't end with noise, they end with one brave decision to step out of line. The field response. Some relatives will label you rebellious, bitter, even disrespectful. They'll insist you've abandoned tradition. But truth doesn't preserve dysfunction, it exposes it. The discomfort you create isn't betrayal, it's liberation. Their resentment is proof that the chains feel the pressure of your presence. Zoom out, then decide. Think of time not as a straight line, but as a woven fabric. Every choice you make pulls on threads both behind you and ahead of you. When you choose truth over comfort, you don't just heal yourself, you reweave the fabric so others can walk lighter. That's why resistance feels heavier now. You're not only correcting your story, you're correcting the story itself. Proof on contact. Watch how quickly narratives begin to crumble. Lies from the past lose power. Old accusations feel hollow. People who once held authority over your identity now sound shaky when they speak your name. That's time acknowledging your role as closure. You don't chase it anymore. You are it. From pattern to practice, create rituals of release. It doesn't need to be dramatic. A deep breath, a written boundary, a single no where you once said yes. Every small act of truth, telling unravels centuries of silence. That's how chain breaking works. It's rarely loud, but it's irreversible. Lock it in. Tonight, you embody more than survival. You embody correction. You are the cosmic interruption that history didn't predict, but destiny required. The past remembers you, the future rearranges because of you, and the present bows to your presence. You don't chase closure, you carry it. And every chain that rattled in your family line finds its break in you. You may think you've been reinventing yourself, but the truth is clearer. You're not inventing, you're remembering. Tonight, that remembrance becomes permanent. You stop searching for who you might be and start reclaiming who you always were. Reinvention suggests novelty. Remembrance suggests accuracy. And accuracy is far more dangerous to systems that depend on you forgetting. Here's the turn. The most terrifying outcome for your enemies was never your growth, it was your memory. They feared the day you'd remember the fire you carried before the labels, before the shaming, before the noise. And tonight, that memory bleeds back through not as imagination, but as recognition. It's not new light, it's old light resurfacing. Notice what changes first. The stories they spun about you stop sticking. Words once used to define you feel brittle. Identities they forced onto your back crumble under scrutiny. You don't even need to argue anymore. The lies feel too thin against the thickness of your remembrance. You recognize your own reflection in ways no hall of distorted mirrors can confuse. Strip this down further. Imagine a child raised in a carnival funhouse. Every reflection warped tall here, wide there, shrunk somewhere else. Live long enough in those reflections and you forget what you look like. That's what happened to you. They surrounded you with funhouse mirrors, hoping you'd mistake distortion for truth. But tonight, the mirrors crack. You stand before clear water, and the reflection staring back is undeniable. The field response. Some will mock you for being different. Others will question your confidence, labeling it arrogance. But what they're really sensing is your accuracy. They can no longer project their illusions onto you, because your remembrance blocks their attempt. You're not improv anymore, you're script, and the script is written in your bones. Zoom out, then decide. Think of remembrance not just as thought, but as cellular awakening. Your breath carries it, your heartbeat echoes it. The body remembers even when the mind forgets. And once the body aligns with truth, the soul rejoices. That's why this shift feels so physical, like a weight lifted, like an anchor released. It isn't just mental clarity, it's a full system reboot. Proof on contact. Watch how memory changes your relationships. People who thrived off your confusion will suddenly feel nervous around you. They can sense you recall the roles they played. You may not confront them, but your very clarity makes them uncomfortable. They know you're no longer willing to carry false identities on your back. From pattern to practice, honor your remembrance by giving it structure. Write down truths you once doubted. Speak affirmations that feel more like reminders than declarations. Live decisions that match who you remember yourself to be. Every action aligned with remembrance cements it deeper until forgetting is no longer possible. Lock it in. Tonight, chosen one, you stop inventing. You stop trying on identities like costumes. You step into the accuracy of who you always were. The one they feared would resurface is here. The one they buried under shame, distraction, and lies has risen. You're not chasing light. You are light rediscovered. And no distortion can steal that truth from you again. You've been accused, mislabeled, misunderstood. They called you arrogant when you were simply confident, cold when you were simply guarded, unstable when you were simply different. For years, you carried the urge to defend yourself, to prove your innocence, to set the record straight. But tonight, that burden ends. You no longer plead your case. You embody the verdict. Here's the turn. The heaviest sentence your enemies can face isn't your words, it's your life. Not the arguments you make, but the undeniable evidence of your healing. Your joy, your peace, your glow. That's the closing statement. It's louder than receipts, it's sharper than revenge, and it doesn't require you to lift a finger. Notice what changes first. The gossip loses volume. Smear campaigns start to sound hollow. The people who once mocked you grow strangely quiet when your name comes up. Why? Because evidence silences speculation. When you live as proof, no argument against you survives scrutiny. Strip this down further. Truth doesn't shout, it simply stands. Lies require defense, spin, and constant maintenance. But evidence? Evidence, just island. And tonight, you become evidence. Your stability becomes the testimony they can't cross-examine. Your presence becomes the alarm clock they can't snooze. They may try to act unbothered, but every glance, every whisper, every restless silence confirms the opposite. They feel the verdict every time you walk into the room. The field response. Expect projection to intensify before it collapses. Some will twist your peace into indifference, your glow into arrogance, your boundaries into cruelty. But don't waste energy correcting them. Their reactions are part of the judgment. Their discomfort proves your evolution. And the more you remain still, the louder their scrambling becomes. Zoom out, then decide. Picture a courtroom where the defendant expects you to argue back, but instead of presenting evidence, you simply rise from your seat and live. Every step you take, every breath you carry in peace, dismantles their case without a word. That's the level of power you embody now. Proof on contact. Imagine someone who celebrated your downfall scrolling through your presence today. They see your glow, your stability, your unmistakable rise. Their stomach knots. Not because you taunted them, but because your life invalidates their entire story. That twist in their gut, that's the verdict. And it can't be appealed. From pattern to practice. Practice silence as strategy. When slander comes, don't chase it. When lies spread, don't defend. Trust evidence. Evidence travels faster than gossip in the long run. Evidence outlives rumors. And evidence, embodied in you, cannot be denied forever. Lock it in. Tonight, you stop being the defense attorney of your own life. You stop pleading for recognition. Stop chasing explanations. Stop burning energy on arguments you've already won. You are the verdict, chosen one. Your life itself has become the closing argument, and that truth will haunt every voice that ever doubted you. There was a time when others thrived on your confusion. They tugged at your empathy, knowing you'd give another chance. They twisted your patience, knowing you'd stay just to prove your loyalty. They built entire power trips on the hope that you wouldn't realize where the real authority lived. But tonight, that game collapses. You are no longer seated at their table. You've removed the table altogether. Here's the turn. Control was never in their hands, it was in your access. Every manipulation they staged, every guilt trip they deployed, only worked because you stayed available. You answered calls, you explained yourself, you gave energy when it wasn't earned. And in doing so, you kept the illusion alive that they had power over you. Tonight you see it clearly. They were never powerful. They were performers pulling strings you had already outgrown. Notice what changes first. Silence becomes your authority. Calls go unanswered, not out of spite, but out of sovereignty. Invitations no longer stir guilt, because you know presence is not an obligation, it's a privilege. The moment you stop negotiating your boundaries, the entire dynamic flips. Manipulators starve when the chosen one withdraws attention. Strip this down further. Picture a puppet master yanking strings with flair, the doll dancing convincingly on stage. Then, without warning, the puppet cuts its strings and stands tall on its own. The master jerks his hands in panic, but nothing moves. His power wasn't real. It was borrowed from the illusion of control. That's what happens when you revoke access. Their hands twitch, but you no longer respond. The field response: expect tantrums. When manipulative people realize their hooks don't work, they double down at first. Louder guilt, heavier blame, sudden accusations. But notice how empty it feels now. What once shook you now sounds like static. That's because you no longer carry the frequency that feeds their performance. They can shout, but the signal doesn't land. Zoom out, then decide. Think of energy as currency. You've spent years funding systems of manipulation with your attention. Tonight, you take your currency back, and without your investment, their empire crumbles. What looked like authority turns to dust when the chosen one withdraws their credit. Proof on contact. Watch how fast power trips collapse once you stop explaining yourself. The guilt trips, the gaslighting, the subtle digs, they bounce off like dull arrows. The access code expired. The door is closed. And for the first time, you feel the peace of sovereignty. From pattern to practice, create criteria for access. Not everyone who knocks deserves entry. From now on, alignment is the only currency. Respect, honesty, growth. These are the tolls required to cross into your space. And if someone can't pay, they don't enter. Not because you're cruel, but because your soul has become too expensive for cheap energy. Lock it in. Tonight, chosen one, you end the myth of their control. You stop asking for apologies, stop waiting for clarity, stop hoping they'll change. You no longer bend to their table. You remove the table altogether, and in doing so, you step into a sovereignty they can't afford to imitate. They're left exposed, hands twitching in empty air, while you walk forward free. You were never meant to inherit every wound your family rehearsed, yet somehow you found yourself holding the same grief, like a torch passed down by habit. Tonight that torch changes hands, not to carry pain onward, but to burn the pattern clear. This is not rebellion for its own sake. It's repair. It's correction. You are the first in the line willing to ask, why keep what hurts us? Here's the turn. Family systems are comfortable repeating scripts because repetition is predictable. Predictability beats the uncertainty of change, so people defend the scripts that trap them. When you refuse to play your assigned role, when you stop performing the same apology, the same disappearing act, the same dutiful silence, they'll call you disloyal, disrespectful, or dramatic. Don't mistake their labels for truth. Labels are defense mechanisms deployed when old systems sense their pattern is in danger. Your choice to stop repeating the script functions like a key turning in a locked lineage. Notice what changes first. Dinner conversations shift tone. Expectations you once met without thought suddenly feel heavy. Relatives who depended on your compliance test you with nostalgia projects. Remember when you used to, hoping to coax you back into the pattern. Some will weaponize guilt, others will use memory as a leash, but there is a clarity that follows. You realize their discomfort is not your obligation. The weight they place on you was never yours to carry. Strip this down further. Change begins with one small refusal. You don't have to dismantle an entire family myth in a single confrontation. Start with micro boundaries. Say nothing dramatic. Do something decisive. Leave a conversation that drains you. Choose one tradition you will not perform in the same way. Refuse to inherit the role that makes you small. Over time, these refusals stack, and the pattern loses momentum. Patterns that survive depend on continuous participation. Withdraw participation, and the pattern loses power. The field response. Expect a mix of confusion and projection. Some family members will mourn as if you've died. Others will attack as if you betrayed the clan. That's because your change exposes the ways they benefited from the old arrangements: emotional labor, secrecy, or control. Their panic is only evidence that the script relied on your compliance. It didn't protect anyone, it took from everyone. Your disruption releases the energy trapped in those roles. Zoom out, then decide. Think of a legacy like a river channel carved over centuries. It feels like the only way water can move until someone chooses to dig new banks. You are that digger. You are not disrespecting your origins by changing how the story moves. You are renewing the path so the next generation drinks from clearer water. That's radical stewardship, not rebellion. Proof on contact. Boundaries recalibrate relationships. Some ties will thin, some will deepen. Those who truly love you will adapt, even if it stings. Those who loved the version of you that served their comfort will drift away. That's part of the cost. But notice the company you keep afterward: fewer faces, truer presence. Quality rises when the old economy of obligation ends. From pattern to practice, build a short script for yourself. Less theatrical, more practical. Decide what you will accept and what you won't. Practice saying it in neutral tones. Example actions. Decline a harmful tradition. Stop covering for a relative's irresponsibility. Refuse to be the family therapist without reciprocity. Keep the asks specific and the delivery calm. You don't need to win everyone over. You need to stop sacrificing your life for their comfort. Lock it in. This is not exile. This is reclamation. You are not rejecting ancestry. You are refusing its distortions. You can care for elders while refusing to repeat the cycles that harmed you. You can show compassion without being consumed by duty. You can celebrate culture without inheriting dysfunction. Tonight, the line breaks where you stand. By choosing a different posture, consistent boundaries, quiet courage, daily practices that honor your healing, you become the ancestor the future will thank. This change will feel sacrificial at first, because old systems fight for survival. But the longer you stand in the posture of gentle refusal, the faster the lineage heals. Your descendants may never know the weight you removed from their shoulders. They will simply breathe easier. That is the quiet revolution you are leading. The cruelest punishment isn't exile, it's elevation. Tonight, you reach a point where your soul no longer comes cheap. You've healed enough, endured enough, and risen enough that the price of your presence has shifted forever. Those who once wandered in and out of your energy without cost now discover they cannot afford the fee anymore. not because you became arrogant, but because survival demanded that you stop giving away what was sacred. Here's the turn. Every scar raised your value. Every heartbreak became an investment. Every betrayal forced you to polish yourself until you gleamed. That means your worth isn't theoretical, it's built into your very being. And when worth rises, the marketplace of relationships changes. The same people who used to barter with excuses now find themselves bankrupt in your presence. Notice what changes first. Silence becomes your invoice. You stop explaining yourself. Stop offering endless chances. Stop diluting your truth to keep others comfortable. Their discomfort is the bill they can't pay. When they gossip, it costs them nothing. When they betray, it costs them nothing. But to stand in your presence now costs honesty, costs accountability, costs growth, and most can't afford it. Strip this down further. Picture a diamond sitting in a pawn shop, haggled over like it's ordinary glass. For years, that was you, priceless but undervalued. Then one day the diamond is removed, cleaned, and placed under proper light. Suddenly, no one dares touch it without reverence. Its value never changed. The setting did. That's what happened tonight. You left the pawn shop of people's convenience. The field response. Expect resentment disguised as nostalgia. They'll miss the version of you who bent into shapes to keep them comfortable. They'll call you distant, cold, unapproachable. But what they really miss is their old control over you. Their access expired, and they cannot bear the truth that their loyalty was never real. It was cheap rent in a mansion they didn't deserve to enter. Zoom out, then decide. Think of your energy like premium currency. You no longer spend it recklessly. You invest it where there's return, peace, growth, reciprocity. You've stopped funding chaos, and without your contribution, cheap systems collapse. That isn't cruelty, that's stewardship. You are conserving your value for those who can match it. Proof on contact. Watch how invitations feel different. Where you once felt guilt saying no, you now decline without hesitation. Where you once explained your silence, you now let it speak for itself. Your soul has been repriced by the universe, and the market can't negotiate it down. From pattern to practice, make peace with being misunderstood. People will call you selfish when you stop offering yourself at a discount. But selfishness is not the truth. Self-respect, island. Practice saying no without decoration. Practice choosing rest without apology. Practice raising the threshold for who earns proximity to your spirit. These small acts build a fortress no enemy can counterfeit. Lock it in. Tonight, you stop living as a commodity and step into life as a luxury. Not everyone can afford you anymore, and that is exactly how it should be. Your worth is not negotiable. Your access is not automatic. Your soul is not for sale. From this moment on, chosen one, you are premium, sacred, untouchable, and those who underestimated you will finally see what they lost when they treated treasure like trinket.